This day in sports history. It's May 25th, and on this day in 1975, the Golden State Warriors capped off one of the greatest upsets in NBA Finals history. Now, it really shouldn't have come as a surprise that the Warriors were in the finals. They had the best record in the West that year, winning 48 games. But with the Celtics and the Bullets each winning 60 games in the East, most people figured it didn't really matter who the West sent. They were going to get pummeled. Apparently, the Warriors making the finals did come as a surprise to the people who ran the Oakland Alameda Coliseum. After the Bullets beat defending champ Boston to make the finals, and Golden State beat Chicago, the schedule of games was announced. Well, there was a problem. Game 3 was on the date that the Oakland Coliseum folks had booked the Ice Follies, and they had no intention of moving the Ice Follies to another date for the silly NBA Finals game. The Warriors searched for another venue to play Games 3 and 4, like the local Cow Palace. Nope, booked as well, with a karate tournament. Can you even fathom something like that happening today? Hey, sorry NBA, we've got the Ice Capades this weekend, and karate after that. How's your schedule look a month from now? Anyway, what ended up happening is that the NBA went to an alternate schedule to work around the conflicts. Washington, as the higher seed, agreed to play at home for Game 1, with Games 2 and 3 played at the Daly Center Cow Palace in the San Francisco area. Game 4 went back to Washington. People figured that it didn't really matter where they played. The Bullets, behind their twin towers of Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes, could beat the Warriors anywhere. There were those who supposedly knew such things that said this was the most mismatched finals in NBA history to this point. But it had not gone that way in the first 3 games. The Warriors had erased a 14-point deficit to win Game 1. The Bullets missed a pair of game-winning shots in the final seconds of Game 2, and then Rick Barry scored 38 to lead the Warriors to victory in Game 3. So on this night, it was Game 4, and the underdog Warriors had a chance to close it out. The Bullets got out to an early lead, and it had been a physical game in the first few minutes, apparently a little too physical for Golden State's coach Al Attles. Washington's Mike Reardon had been assigned the impossible task of guarding Barry, and when he couldn't stop him, he grabbed him. And then this happened.
Washington looking much more aggressive here in the early going. They lead it by 4 points, and here is Clifford Ray. Sets a pick for Rick Barry. Barry looking for some shooting room. Reardon is on him. Now hold on, Attles has come out at Reardon. Coach Al Attles wants Reardon. Unseld's got Attles. He's pushing him back. Attles one on him. Reardon was all over Rick Barry. Attles is furious. Now Bill Bridges has a hold of Unseld. He's trying to push West back. Joe Roberts grabs Attles, yanks him back out of the way.
Attles got ejected, but here's the thing. He did not get ejected for storming the court and going after Reardon. Instead, referee Richie Powers ejected him after 2 technicals for arguing after the melee had been stopped. The Bullets would take a 14-point lead again, but again they couldn't hold on to it. Butch Beard scored the final 7 points for the Warriors in this game, who won 96-95, and Golden State won their first NBA title with a 4-game sweep of Washington. There were a couple of other firsts in this one as well. It was the first time that the team without home court advantage had swept the series. This was also the first championship series or game that featured 2 black head coaches. The Bullets were coached by K.C. Jones at this point. And that would not happen again in any major professional sport until 2007, when Tony Dungy and Lovie Smith battled wits in Super Bowl 41. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. Okay, moving on to this day in 1993, and it was Game 2 of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals between the Chicago Bulls and the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Okay, so 93, Bulls, playoffs. This has to be an MJ story, right? It is not. The man doing the posterizing on this night was John Starks. As was prone to happen when the Knicks played the Bulls back then, they would blow a big lead and eventually lose. Well, following that script, the Knicks had a 14-point lead in the third quarter, and then the Bulls came roaring back. With 50 seconds to play, the lead was just 3. The Knicks' John Starks had the ball and was working on B.J. Armstrong. After leaving Armstrong like he was stuck in cement, Starks broke to the basket, elevated, switched the ball from his right to his left, and dunked it over Horace Grant and Jordan. Calling the action that night was Marv Albert.
We're down to 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Starks, yes! What a move by Starks, who was able to sky to the basket. The Bulls call for time.
That helped the Knicks to hang on to the lead and win 96-91, evening up the series at a game apiece. But the Bulls would go on to win the series and eventually the NBA championship for the third straight year. But at least on this night, John Starks added a little variety to that same old song and dance. So after Indiana's incredible comeback in the fourth quarter against the Knicks in Game 1 of this year's Eastern Conference Finals, let's go back to another incredible second-half playoff game surge on this night in 2002. It was Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the New Jersey Nets and the Boston Celtics. The Nets built up a 15-point lead after the first quarter. It was a 20-point lead at the half. It would eventually balloon to a 26-point lead in the third quarter. But a steal and a bucket by Boston's Rodney Rogers in the closing seconds of the third was a shadow of what was to come in the fourth. Paul Pierce was unstoppable in the final quarter.
Respond right now. Pierce draws the foul and one. Somehow held on. And he's got a chance for a three-point play. Pierce inside, puts it in.
When Pierce hit a free throw with 46 seconds left in the game, the Celtics had their first lead since they led 1-0 back in the first quarter. Pierce scored 19 of the Celtics' 41 fourth-quarter points to turn a 26-point deficit into a 4-point Boston win. It was the second biggest comeback in NBA playoff history at the time, and the 21-point hole they faced to start the fourth quarter was the largest fourth-quarter deficit overcome in the playoffs. The Nets would go on to win the series, though, and would eventually face the LA Lakers in the finals. Let me ask you a question, and I'll give you a moment to think about it, but what would you do if for 6 solid days you faced taunts while you simply tried to do your job? Now, consider that these are not just any old, fun, playful words being hurled your way. Now, these are racist, vile, hate-filled taunts directed at you by people who came to watch a game from the left field bleachers. But instead of enjoying a beautiful day in Starkville, Mississippi, these fans, called the Lounge Lizards, have focused all of their attention on you standing in center field. And all you're doing is playing a game, hoping to help your team advance to the College World Series. But the words don't stop, and they escalate from buckwheat and skillet, moving up the ranks to the most vile words in the English language. Sure, you'd probably try to tune them out, right? But that's tough to do. So, what would you do if the taunts kept coming and they got more and more hate-filled as the week went on? Well, that was the situation that Oklahoma State's Anthony Blackmon faced for 6 days during the Mideast Regional, hosted in Starkville, Mississippi. Blackmon was playing center field for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. On this day, it was the 6th and final game of the regional as they played Texas A&M. The winner moved on to the College World Series, and the loser went home. When the final out was recorded, and Oklahoma State had beaten the Aggies 11-9, Blackmon finally responded, dropping his pants, shooting the moon toward the outfield Lounge Lizards, while slapping his backside pointed at the racist hecklers. So yeah, not the reaction you want to see, but you get it, right? Now, understand that no skin was exposed. He had on sliding shorts underneath his baseball pants, and it was a brief moment, with most of the stadium not even aware that anything had happened. But the gesture was seen by enough, and it had a meaning, and it also had consequences. After the game, Oklahoma State head coach Gary Ward addressed the situation by first calling Blackmon's gesture a classless response, but then added, quote, "You go to center field for 6 games and take the stuff he was taking and see how you respond. Me? I just basically want to kill the SOBs." End quote. So after a meeting with school and NCAA officials, Blackmon issued an apology, and he was suspended for the first 2 games of the College World Series. The Cowboys would make it to the championship game before losing to Stanford. And while Blackmon can't prove it, he believes that his brief lapse of mental judgment resulted in him not being drafted. You know who did not face any consequences for their actions? The people who hurled vile, racist taunts at the man for 6 games. They were able to return to their existence without the least bit of hindrance on their sad, little, pathetic lives. All right, let's end on a little bit of a happier note. On this day in 1935, Babe Ruth hit the final home runs of his career, belting 3 for the Boston Braves while driving in 6 runs and going 4 for 4 on the day. This was at Pittsburgh's Forbes Field, and Ruth proved he still had some pop in his bat. Career homer number 714 cleared the ballpark and was estimated to be a 600-foot shot, but it was never measured. It was the first ball ever hit out of Forbes Field, which had been around since 1909. Unfortunately, the Boston Braves could not muster much more on this day, and Babe's efforts were in an 11-7 losing effort to the Pirates. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Slime molds may give you the ick, but they are fascinating to scientists. First, slime molds defy categorization for the most part. They are not animal, plant, or fungi. Second, though it's a single-celled organism, they can form a complex network together and communicate throughout the group. For example, a slime mold has solved mazes before, not like you or I might by trial and error, but instead by spreading itself through the entire maze, and then once it finds the exit, which is the pathway to food, it reorganizes itself to that point. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.